Stop sending random emails and relying on discounts. Instead, use this e-commerce campaign system that actually converts. I'm going to walk you through today. After you finish this video, you are going to know how many emails you should be sending every single week, what you should be sending, and who you should be sending to, so that you are not relying on discounts to make sales and you actually build predictable revenue from your email list. We're going to cover everything A to Z, so let's jump right into it. Before we jump in, if you want access to this document so you do not have to scroll through the video to find when I'm talking about specific things, it will be in the description below, as well as this video format. All right, so why this matters. You have attention, retention, and profit. Ad costs are higher than ever, customers are harder to convert, and relying on paid traffic alone is a losing game. You can get people to your site pretty easily. The hard part is getting them to trust you, understand your product, and actually pull out their credit card and convert, as I'm sure you know. That is where email campaigns come in. Campaigns are how you turn attention into revenue. They're how you increase customer lifetime value, stay top of mind, and make more money from your traffic you already paid for. Without consistent campaigns, you're leaving massive revenue on the table and forcing your business to survive off of first purchases alone. This is where most brands fall short and where your biggest upside lives. So what we're going to cover today, right? We're going to cover what are campaigns, the biggest mistakes, how many you should be sending, who you should be sending to, what you should be sending. We're going to build out your campaign calendar, what makes a high converting email. We're going to touch on that a little bit. I'll have a completely different video that goes really in depth into that, but I wanted to touch on it. Then we're going to talk about optimizing your campaigns. And then if you want to access this doc, you'll also have access to high converting campaign swipe file you can go through if you need some inspiration or better understand types of emails. All right, so what are campaigns, right? Email campaigns are one-time email sends you send to your list or to a targeted segment. They're different from flows, right? Because flows are based on triggers. They're based on actions. This is just you press send and it sends to the people you want to send to. Campaigns can be holiday sales, brand updates, new collection drops, objection handling, etc. And these are going to be what drive long-term customer relationship and retention. So the biggest mistakes 90% of brands are making. Most brands do send email campaigns. They're just doing it randomly with no system, no strategy, and they're really bad, right? So they're just blasting sales and hoping something sticks. That is how you burn your list, destroy deliverability, and train customers to only buy when there's a discount. Most of the time, brands are making 3 mistakes that are costing them a ton of sales. So we'll get into those 3 mistakes to make sure you are not doing those mistakes. So first, obviously, is going to be just inconsistency. Most brands send emails at random times, no thought put into it, just random blasts here and there when they remember or have the time. Campaigns keep you top of mind, build trust, and train your list to open your emails, right? So it's just like their favorite show. If their favorite show drops every Friday at 5 p.m., they're there, they're ready. If you're sitting randomly, your list does not know what to expect. So this is super important. Customers won't get in the habit of opening your emails, so you'll easily become forgettable. Your deliverability will take a hit, right? Because if people are not actively used to opening your emails and you're sitting randomly, your open rate is going to drop, which can affect your engagement, which will affect your deliverability. And no one on your list will trust you. Sending consistent good campaigns is the only way to actually get results from campaigns. Mistake number 2, only blasting discounts. This is huge. If you want to be valued by your list, you cannot just send a ton of emails. You cannot just send a ton of discounts. You're going to be a commodity. Which brand is offering the biggest sale right now? And that's who they're going to choose. You do not want that. You want your brand to actually be valuable to your customers. And you don't want to race to the bottom. So do not only blast discounts. Of course, when you have a sale, you're going to have discounts as well, but you do not only want to send discounts to your list. So if you want your customers to never purchase at full price, never truly value your brand, and slowly get annoyed by seeing an email notification with your brand name on it, this is the way to do it. Now, if you want your customers to truly value your brand and products, be more than willing to pay full price, and love opening your emails, you'll stop sending only discounts and send valuable campaigns people actually want to open. This means creating campaigns that are educational while positioning your product as a solution. And there's many different ways to do that, which we'll get to soon. But having a mix of 70 to 80% of non-discount emails will only make your sales hit harder. They already trust you and value your products. Customers will take action faster to snag your products for a discount if they already know what your products are worth, right? So versus they're on a discount, let me see if that other brand that sells the same thing has a bigger discount right now. It's going to be, oh my gosh, they're on a discount. I love these products. I know how much they're worth. This is a great deal. I'm going to go grab them. So it's only going to make your discounts and your sales hit harder. Mistake number 3, sending to the wrong people. Blasting to your entire list is the quickest way to end up in spam. Instead, you need to send to engaged subscribers. This will ensure your deliverability is solid and the people who actually want to open your emails are receiving them. We want to make sure they're landing in their inbox. So if you're landing in spam, it doesn't matter how good your strategy is, you just won't get results. So make sure you're sending to the right people, which we will also touch on. All right, so how many emails should you be sending? To answer the question, it's going to be 3 to 4 campaigns a week, generally speaking, but let's break down why. We need to find that balance between sending enough volume that people get in the habit of opening your emails and you stay top of mind, but we also want to make sure we're not annoying your list, right? And 3 to 4 campaigns a week is that sweet spot. Sending 1 to 2 campaigns a week, opening your emails don't become a habit. You become forgettable and tons of revenue left on the table, right? Which is kind of what we touched in. Now, sending 5 to 7 a week, right? Almost every single day, if not every single day, you will annoy your list, right? That's going to happen. Unsubscribes are going to become way too high. No one's going to value what you say because you talk a lot, right? And revenue stops scaling with your brand. So it kind of just plateaus at a certain point, which you don't want, right? You want your email channel to scale with your brand consistently, hitting anywhere between 40 to 50% of your revenue. If you scale from, 100K a month to $1 million a month in 3 years, you want email to still be 40 to 50% of that revenue, right? You don't want it to stop. So planning is how you win consistency. And I'll show you exactly how to plan out these 3 to 4 campaigns for the entire month, so you aren't scrambling every week. Now, who should you be sending to, right? We touched on this briefly. What list, what segment should you be sending to? While some brands think they need some crazy segmentation strategy, so every email is hyper personalized and you're hitting every single one person's pain point, I'm here to tell you, just keep it simple. 9 times out of 10, the more people you can send to, the better. Obviously, this does not mean send to your entire list. This means sending an X-Day engaged list with 40,000 people will typically always outperform some hyper segment of woman 45 to 50 who has purchased X product 3 times that has 8,000 people in it. So sending to an engaged list ensures you're sending to people who actually want to receive your emails and make sure your deliverability stays solid. So for your main 3 to 4 week campaigns, sending to your 30, 60, 90, or 120 day engaged segment will yield the best results. What I recommend is just starting with your 30-day engaged segment. Once open rates are at 50% plus, move on to 60-day engaged and keep doing that until you hit your 120 day segment. Now, if, for example, you do reach that 120-day engaged segment and you realize the 90-day perform much better, there's better open rates, just stick with the 90-day, right? Typically, 90 or 120-day is where you want to be. And again, if you access this doc, you can see here exactly how to set that up. It is pretty simple. Nonetheless, let's move on. So now what should you send, right? Now you know how many emails you should be sending and who to send them to. Now let's get into what you should be sending. Value has become some sort of buzzword that's never truly explained, so I will do my best to explain what that means in this context. You need to be sending mostly valuable emails to your list. What this means is educational content that positions your product as a solution should be making up 70 to 80% of your campaigns. That means 70 to 80% should be non-discount emails. You are not sending them a discount. And the best way to consistently come up with good campaigns is to create micro topics. So micro topics are just subtopics related to your product or niche. For example, let's use a supplement brand, right? A micro topic would be nutrition, cutting, bulking, and lifting. Now let's zoom into lifting. That's a macro topic. Now, micro topics of lifting would be best lifting split when you're busy, supplement stack for better recovery, how to train longer, the ingredient that helps you lift harder, the best pre-workout stack, more weight or more reps. Every heavy lifter should be doing these 3 things after a workout, right? So from here, you can get 100 different micro topics if you just write down a few macro topics and then write down a few micro topics underneath those macro topics. You have a ton of good information you can share with your list. And having these super zoomed in topics is really, really good for email because we want it to be quick. We want it to be skimmable. And we want to make sure there's one main takeaway from the email. And this is the best way to do that. So now let's look at some winning campaign ideas. So if you decide to access this doc, you will have 80 different winning campaign ideas. But for the purpose of this video, as well as just in general, here are the top 10 campaigns. If you have not sent, you should send. So we're going to break down what, why, and how for these, just so you kind of get a better understanding of what creates a winning non-discount campaign. So let's take a look at the one benefit focus. So what it is, you focus an entire email on one benefit of your product. Just one, not 10, not 5, not all of them, one. So one of the reasons this campaign is so killer is it can be repeated over and over. You can create 10 different benefits for all of your products, and now you have 50 different good campaigns to run. So why? Focusing an entire email on one benefit creates digestible education. No one wants to read a 6-paragraph email breaking down all of the benefits they get from your products. Instead, if you focus on one, they actually get to take something away, which would rather them take something away than nothing at all, if that makes sense. So how you're gonna do this, so literally just list out as many benefits as you can about your products. Each benefit will serve as one email. That's literally it. So you can get like 10 emails out of this campaign type. It's super, super killer. So let's look at a really good example here from Bite. Their benefit: plastic has no place in your twice a day. That is what their entire email is about how you can get rid of plastic from your daily usage. That's literally it. It's short, it's skimmable, it's clean, it's clear. It is exactly what you want. Time for a detox. $15 detox kit, a 1-month bottle of toothpaste bits, and bamboo toothbrush. Say bye to bad. Here's what you'll leave behind, right? Really, really solid email and really solid example. All right, let's take a look at us versus them. This one is killer, and if you have not, you need to, okay? So what it is, you compare your ingredients or benefits or how it's made, etc., whatever it may be. You're gonna compare this with a competitor. Be very clear, us versus them. Why? Consumers have more options than ever, so you have to stand out. This is how you're gonna separate yourself from your competitors. Show off why you're better, all right? Toot your horn a little bit. Toot your own horn a little bit. So how you're going to do this, you're going to create a chart or table showing quick bullets of you versus your competitors. Ask yourself, what are the main differentiators between you and your biggest competitors? So let's take a look at a killer example, 2 killer examples here, one by Grüns and one by Graza. Grüns is very straightforward. We know what brand this is, AG1. Tastes like a fruit snack grab and go. Tastes like chalky, messy preparation. Grüns versus Green Powders. They break down what's inside, but you can see here how skimmable that is, right? And that's why you want to use infographics. They just, put it literally straight out there. And then we have Graza over here, us versus the other guys. No funny business here. Graza versus canola oil and expensive olive oil, and they break it down. Super simple, super skimmable, super quick. This is exactly how you want to do an us versus them email. Now we have myths versus facts. This is another killer. What it is, I'm sure you probably know. You're going to just disprove common misconceptions about your product or niche. Why? You need to eliminate existing beliefs that are false, right? This is one of the best ways to overcome objections and reframe thinking. So how you're going to do this, when I explain how design-wise, you can get super creative. This is just one of the best and main ways to do it when I break down the how. So create a chart, table, or blocks showing quick bullets of myths versus facts. What are the most common misconceptions? So let's take a look at an example here. 3 examples. So we have sunscreen myth busting, science over gym gossip, not all cotton is created equal. All 3 of these use a little bit of a different design style to relay this information. So it's a good thing to look at here. So Supergoop here just shows for each product myth versus busted. Myth versus busted, myth busted, right? Super skimmable, super easy to read. Then you have gains in bulk here. Myth 1, creatine makes you bloated or puffy. Truth, myth, truth. Now you can do false, true, whatever. A really good fun one that Llama Naturals did was actually for Halloween, which was trick or treat, and the trick was the myth and the treat was the truth. So that's a fun one. And then not all cotton is created equal. This was a concept design I created for rear ends here, but as you can see, it's kind of like a text message. So myth, all cotton is basically the same. Fact, right? And then just make sure you're having some CTA buttons throughout there. But yeah, this is a super good email to send, and it will overcome some existing beliefs that your potential customers might have. Testimonials. I'm sure I don't have to go very deep into why these are so important, but they are. Trust is super scarce today, okay? Consumers are less trusting than ever. You need to gain trust. A testimonial campaign is where you're going to showcase 1 to 2 reviews and make the entire email about that. That is the best way to do it, in my opinion. Find a super good review, and you'll find that angle in there that you can make the entire email about. Like the 1 benefit focus, this can be repeated multiple times. So go through your testimonials, take the time, find some really, really in-depth ones that overcome some objections, as I kind of mentioned here in the why. And as I'm sure you know, your customers are the best people to sell for you. So why you should be sending this, your customers are the best people to sell for you. There you go. If a review handles an objection, tells a personal transformation, or gives an in-depth experience, people are much more likely to trust the experience of a customer than just giving a statement from the brand, as I'm sure you know. How? Just find 1 or 2 in-depth specific reviews that handle objections. Angle your whole email around that. So let's take a look at a couple examples here. So this angle here is sleep better with this, right? Their product is called Sleep, but you can sleep better with their sleep, okay? So again, the text message theme, but all of these, they're not these super long emails, but they hit super specific pain points, right? I think I achieved my fastest sleep of all time, best night of sleep. I feel like I found a magic pill. I live on St. Mark's. These pills are the only thing that help me fall asleep, plus stay asleep even through 5 a.m. anarchy. I travel for work. I can skip the alcohol and calories and take these. So you can see here how specific these are, even though a little short. So this is a great example here, just focusing on their product Sleep. And then here, the angle for Verb Bar is that their bar is better than coffee, okay? So you can see us versus them. They have a coffee versus Verb Bar, and feel free to combine some of these, right? If it makes sense for the angle or the topic of that email. So they have us versus them. They hit them with the happy customers, 3 really in-depth reviews about how Verb Bar is better than coffee. So whether it's they don't like coffee, but they need energy, as you can see here, I'm not a big coffee drinker, but these bars are a great pick-me-up. This is my #1 favorite. They jolt me, get me going. So this fits into their entire angle for this email of coffee versus Verb Bar. So some great examples by Verb Bar and by 1906. Now we're going to get into what's inside, no pun intended. So you need to break down what's inside of your products, whether it's ingredients or materials. Now more than ever, people care about what it is they are consuming and using. Is it healthy, good for the environment, sourced naturally? These are the questions people are asking. So how you're going to do this is you're going to create a clean and simple list breaking down what's in your products. Show a close-up of your products and use arrows to show what's inside. Of course, again, you can get creative, but this is a general guide to follow. So let's take a look at 2 good examples. One from Ritual, a close-up graphic of their product showing what's inside. And then we have the Only Bean, Pasta Reinvented. So they show what is inside of their bean pasta: 3x of protein, 6x of fiber, 6x fewer net carbs, naturally gluten-free, fast cooking. So this is a great way to kind of just show a deeper look into your products that also touches on some of the benefits. So this is a super great campaign to send. How to use. This is one of my favorites and underrated in my opinion. So you're going to show the best ways to use your product to get the best results, whether it's the frequency, amount, timing, or like a step-by-step guide of how to use your products. Why? You would be surprised how many people do not purchase your product or are hesitant because they simply do not understand how to properly use your products, right? Now, for some brands and some niches, that's going to be more obvious, right? But for others, like if you're a fashion brand, they don't know if it's going to fit them correctly. Especially now, I feel like people are really more aware of how clothes fit them. Give a fit guide, a sizing guide, best, wear it with this. If you're this body type, this style will suit you, but whatever it may be, that might be risky, but you get my point of supplement brands. How often should you be using this? Soap brands, which I believe is the example here. How to make your soap last longer. Maybe people don't want to buy bar soap because they feel like it dwindles away in the shower from all the heat and from the water. So you want to show people the best way to use your products. So create a step-by-step chart or table. You want to clearly lay out how to use it. Let's take a look at a good example here by Dr. Squatch, the one I just mentioned, how to last longer. They break down how to make your soap last longer. That's literally it. So this is a great email for them to be sending. And for vacation, they have the art of application, the best practices for instant vacation, SPF 30. They literally break down 4 tips for applying sunscreen. Send these emails. They're great. All right, FAQ. This one is another killer one. I guess all of these are. That's why they're top 10. All right, so it's pretty straightforward, but just answer some of the most common questions you get from customers. If there's 2 to 3 questions that you can think of right now, the customers always email support about, it's likely potential customers have or will have these questions. So it's best to just handle them now. So find your most common questions, whether it's social media comments or email to your support team, and answer them clearly and concisely. Create a table or chart with the questions followed by the answer. Most important is that you keep it skimmable. So don't have 5-paragraph answers, right? Make sure you can get the point across in a couple sentences. So let's look at a good example here by Wuffs. So a good example here, you asked, we answered. What are double servings? This is a great example here. And then we have Bubble, literally just Q&As, right? Why do I break out in the fall? How can I stop fall breakouts? There's a couple angles you could do with this, right? So this can be more educational of like, a great example by Bubble, why do I break out in the fall? How can I stop fall breakouts, right? And it's very seasonal, this one. You could also do FAQs just about your brand or your products, right? Like, how often should I be using this? What's the best dosage to use? You get my point. There's multiple angles you can go about this, but this is a great campaign to send. How it is made. People eat these up. Show how your products are made. People want to trust what they are purchasing, consuming, and using, right? They want to know how they are spending their money. So showing exactly how your products are made builds that trust. Transparency is extremely effective and valuable for customers. People love these. They want to see behind the scenes. This is a great way to get behind the scenes and build trust. So how? Break your process down into consumable bullet points. Show images of the factory, the products being made, the ingredients, the farms, etc. People want to see the founder with a hairnet on holding their protein powder that's being made in the lab, right? Like people love that. So send that and build that trust. Great example by Salt. I believe they were in the last video as well. If you are a founder-led brand, sign up to their email list, follow them on social media. You need to see what they're doing because they are doing it amazingly. So We Are UK brand FAQ, where you guys produced, where it's all made. They break down where it's made. Here's the exact photo I mentioned that people love. The label's getting made. One of the founders in the factory. They're in the distribution centers. People love seeing this. And this is a great example by Salt. One feature focus, very similar here to the one benefit focus, but we're gonna focus on features. So what is it between a feature and a benefit? A feature would be like battery lasts 10 hours, made with titanium, right? Those are features. The benefit is lasts up to 50 years, right? Or the benefit of the battery life would be use all day, never worry about dead battery, or you get the point, right? So similarly to one benefit focus the entire email on one feature. You can create 10 different features for all your products, and now you have 50 good different campaigns to run. So why? Focusing an entire email on one feature creates digestible education. Tons of people aren't aware of specific features of your products, so make them aware. What you may think is obvious, people aren't aware of. So here we have a good example. Now, they did not focus the entire email on one feature, but they did point out some of the features here, like back panel zip pocket, interior zip pocket, zinc alloy hardware. People who shop with them are very much feature buffs, I presume. So this is a great email by them, and again, those just quick bullets with product images there is perfect. And here we have a great example by Burn. Now their tech spotlight, their feature spotlight is their MIPS. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that right. MIPS Safety Explained. And so they explain that feature of the MIPS protection. I don't understand what that means, but they did break that down, and then they showed some products. So this is two great examples. And then the final one, which is a absolute banger, is going to be Note from Founder. Now, why? I'm sure you can gather your own consensus as to why you should be sending this. But text-based emails typically outperform graphic-based when used sparingly, and this is one of the best ways to use them. A personal message from a human, not a brand, builds trust and connection. People buy from people. So how? Share a brand update, a new product launch, a personal experience, why you started the brand. So there's tons of different angles you can use for this. So let's look at a good example here. We have Run from Strong Coffee. Yo, it's Adam, the founder of Strong Coffee. Wanted to reach out and share some stuff that's been going on behind the scenes. That's literally it. So then he breaks that down, dropped a brand new strong latte flavor, dropped 2 new merch collections, launched Nationwide and Sprouts. So just an update, right? That's the most obvious way to use these, is just brand updates, but it doesn't always have to be. Anything that's high urgency, super important, or a brand update, or anything really personal, make it a founder email. So then we have Salt. Sorry, we effed up, mate. A look back on the Salty October. So every month they do these breakdowns of the entire month, just keeping their customers in the loop, and it's amazing, and I love it. And again, if you're a founder-led brand, you need to check out Salt. So those are the top 10 campaigns. If you have not sent these, you need to send them. If you have sent them again, okay? So these are the top 10 campaigns you should be sending to your list. Your campaign calendar. So now you kind of have a general idea of how many campaigns you should be sending, who you should be sending to, and what you should be sending, right? Educational campaigns that position your product as a solution. Now, the only way you're going to stay consistent and you're going to hit all 3 of those mistakes, X those off, never worry about those main 3 mistakes we mentioned, is with planning. And you plan through a campaign calendar. Okay, so how to plan out a month's worth of campaigns. As I said, now that you know how many campaigns to send, who to send them to, and what to send, it's time to create your campaign calendar. This is the best way to stay consistent and on top of your weekly campaigns. Coming up with emails randomly last minute is a recipe for inconsistent and ineffective campaigns. And you're here because you don't want inconsistent and ineffective campaigns. Now, once you're consistently sending campaigns, you do want to make sure you're looking back at what has already worked and using that to help plan out your month, okay? So, step 1, map out important dates. The first thing you want to do is place important/relevant dates on your calendar. What are important dates? Holidays, real or fake. Remember, you can make up holidays. Any holidays you want, you can make up. And be aware of, like, if you're a donut brand, there's National Donut Day, right? The founder's birthday can be a holiday, whatever it may be. Real or fake holidays, product or collection drops, and sales. I'm sure you are aware of what important dates are for your brand. From there, you want to decide if you're running a sale, because not everything is going to be a sale, right? Product or collection drops do not have to have a sale, right? So if you're going to be running a sale, how long you'll be running the sale and what the sale will actually be. So if you're not running a sale, you skip that part. Once you've placed these important dates, you need to fill in all the emails you'll send for each. I recommend at least 3. For example, let's use a jewelry brand, right? So say they have a new product launch. They decided they are not running a sale. So boom, we got that part checked off. Sale, no. Email 1 is going to be 48 hours until launch. Email 2, 24 hours until launch. Email 3, launch day. Email 4, almost sold out. Email 5, final low stock reminder. So that's what I mean by you need to fill in the emails you'll send for each, because you're not just going to send one email on launch day, right? As I'm sure you know, you got to build up suspense. Then you have launch, and then you have after launch. You want to keep sending some emails. Now let's look at Valentine's Day sale, right? So this is a sale. So email 1 would be announcement 2 days before. Email 2, sale launch. Email 3, 48 hours left. Email 4, last chance, final 24 hours of the sale. So let's see what that looks like on a calendar. So here you've mapped out, right? We know product launch is going to be the 3rd. So we have to have our 2 emails beforehand or 2 emails after. We know Valentine's Day sale is going to launch on Valentine's Day. We need to have an email before and 2 after. So you get the point. Plan out all these big holidays, these big sales, these big events, collection or product drops, and put them into your calendar. So now, boom, I'm looking at everything here. Now I can see the week of the 16th, I only have 2 emails. The week of the 9th, I only have 2 emails. The week of the 2nd, I'm good to go. Obviously, the 1st is 1 day. And then the last week of this month, I have no emails. So this is how you want to complete step 1, is just fill in all those important dates and all the emails you will be sending for those important dates. And as I'm sure you know, some months will have less important dates to fill in and some will have more. That's why planning ahead gives you the best chance at winning. So once you have this filled out, we need to move on to step 2, fill in your micro topic campaigns. Now that you have all the important dates, sales, and drops, fill in the rest of the weeks with micro campaign topics, what this would look like, right? So as I said, we see the 16th, we only have 2 emails. We need 2 more. So let's add in a note from the founder, as well as how to take care of your jewelry so it lasts, right? Well, we're good for the week of the 2nd. The 9th, we need 1 to 2 more emails. Let's do 1 more since we're going to be pretty sale heavy. Valentine's date night jewelry combinations is a great addition to the sale that is coming up on the week of Valentine's Day, right? And then we know that last week we have no campaign. So let's fill in 3 to 4 campaigns here, right? Us versus them, sustainable materials, how to check your ring size. Should you wear your jewelry in the water? Campaign, how it's made. So this is how you want to build your campaign calendar. You want to do this at least a month in advance. And then all you have to do is you take a look. Cool, we literally just need to create all these emails, schedule them out, and we're good to go. Instead of scrambling last minute, this is how you want to do it, and this is how you stay consistent, and this is how you get results. All right, now let's get into optimizing your campaigns. Now that you have a successful campaign strategy, you want to make sure you aren't plateauing and revenue is scaling with your brand. As I mentioned a little earlier, you could literally test anything, but that does not mean you should or that it's the highest leverage test to run. There are 3 best A/B tests to run, and I'm going to break them down for you. Before we break down which test to run, you want to make sure you have enough volume to make a conclusive decision. So bare minimum, you need 1,000 to 2,000 recipients per variant. If you have to send multiple campaigns to reach this minimum, you should. And of course, make sure you're only testing one thing at a time, as I'm sure you know. All right, so the first test to run, I kind of mentioned, subject line and preview text. This is the most common and obvious, but subject lines directly affect open rates. So testing this is always good. It is a bit harder to track. It is a bit harder to track exactly what's working since subject lines are always different, right? But there are some concrete elements you can test and implement for future campaigns. You just want to make sure you're testing things that are super, super concrete, right? Not where they're like just 2 completely different subject lines, because then you don't know what's working. Was it the capital letter or the period? We don't know. So you want to make sure you're testing clean variables like emojis versus no emojis. So same subject line, same subject line like should you run at night with this face, this emoji, versus should you run at night with no emoji. That's it. You don't want to test 2 completely different subject lines. And again, the exclamation point or no exclamation point, all caps or lowercase. So should you run at night or should you run at night, right? Including the discount. So 10% off starts now versus sale starts now. Number 2 is going to be graphic versus text-based. We touched on this a little bit, but testing graphic versus text-based is one of the best tests to run. Likely, most of the time, you will find that text-based does perform better than graphic-based. But that does not mean to only send text-based. Please do not. You have to keep a good balance so that you're still visually stimulating your list. But I would test text-based for more important or personal campaigns, which we kind of touched on with the note from founder example. So when to test text-based, sale announcements, last chance, high urgency, brand updates, notes from founder, which is a campaign type, right? Product launches, yearly recaps, brand anniversaries. The idea is in key moments, you want to be personal, and text-based campaigns do just that. So it is worth texting. So your last email in a sale, make it text-based from the founder. So in key moments, test text-based, it'll likely outperform, but do not think just because it's outperforming, you should send every email as text-based from the founder. You should not, okay? But this is a really, really good test to run. Number 3 is going to be your send times. Everyone's lists are completely different. So your list might be full of early birds and sending at 7 a.m. performs best, while others see that 1 p.m. get the best results. So to start, I would test these times: 7 a.m., 9 a.m., 12 p.m., 4 p.m., 7 p.m., 10 p.m. Make sure you're testing times on the same day. So you're not sending a campaign at, on Tuesday at 9 and then sending a campaign on Thursday at 7 a.m. You're like, oh, 7 a.m. won. No, you're testing 2 different variables now. You want to make sure you're testing 1 variable. So just do an A/B test for the same campaign. For example, A would be Tuesday, January 1st at 9 a.m. B would be Tuesday, January 1st at 1 p.m. So that's how you want to run that test. If you don't necessarily know where to start, just start 7 a.m. versus 10 p.m. And then whichever winner, you'll just keep moving up. So 7 a.m. versus 7 p.m. Say 7 p.m. wins, do 9 a.m. versus 7 p.m. If 9 a.m. wins, 9 a.m. versus 4 p.m. If 4 p.m. wins, 12 p.m. versus 4 p.m. And once you find your winner, you generally want to stick with that time so your list gets used to opening your emails. All right, so what makes high converting email? I'm going to briefly touch on this since this video is about campaigns, but I still want to make sure you're taking everything in this strategy and you're packaging it in a way that converts, okay? So how to create a high converting email. I will be creating an entire guide on this to go really in depth, but I still want to touch on it. As I just mentioned, you now know everything to start converting with your campaigns. But even with a dialed strategy like this one, if you send emails with 1 CTA button all the way at the bottom, your results will suffer, right? So there's 3 conversion principles every email should generally follow. The conversion principles. 1, easy to take action. This means large CTA buttons throughout the entire email, especially above the fold in the hero section. If someone has to scroll to take action, that is friction. And as I'm sure you know, as a e-com founder, friction equals lower conversions, right? Any sort of friction. Number 2 is going to be skimmable. You have 3 to 5 seconds max. 9 times out of 10, no one is reading a 6-paragraph email. You have to keep it concise and skimmable. That means clear sections, infographics, minimal copy, large headlines. Keep it simple. And remember, we want someone to walk away with 1 key takeaway, okay? We don't need to try and get 5 points across. Just think, can they scroll this email very briefly and get 1 key takeaway? That is what we want. And number 3, on brand. This one is pretty self-explanatory and kind of obvious, but just use your brand assets, your fonts, your colors, your graphics. You don't want to be silly and super fun on socials and then be super corporate and dull to your list. Think of your list as your tight-knit followers. You want to show up the same across all channels, generally speaking. And then this is a simple template that you can follow. Of course, be creative, have fun, but this is a standard guide to ensure you're following all of the principles that make up a high converting layout, okay? So your big headline, simple infographic, your body copy, large CTA button, headline, infographic or image, large CTA, footer, right? And then just repeat that section. So every section needs a CTA button, guys, okay? And then again, if you want access to this document, it'll be in the description below. And you will have access to all of these campaigns with tons of different examples: find your match, gift card campaign, testimonial, 1 benefit focus, collection drop, benefits, myth versus facts, 1 product focus. Get the point. All right, that is all, folks. I will see you next time. Now, if you want more help, all of this you understood, but you don't feel like doing, you don't want to build a campaign calendar, and you're doing at least 50K a month, and you want help scaling your email marketing, click the link below and book a call with me, or check out my company website. Again, this document will be available in the description below. I hope this was helpful. This is my 3rd YouTube video, so any feedback I am open to. If you don't like this style, if it's confusing, if I'm just talking, if none of it makes sense, if I should have flown in a different direction, let me know. I am all ears, but I hope this was helpful. Now go and build your campaign calendars and start sending non-discount campaigns and building a real email channel for your brand. You will thank yourself. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, if you have any feedback, let me know. Document is in the description below. If you'd like to work with me, you can book a call. If you'd like to check out company website, is also in the description below. I will see you guys next time. Ciao for now.